As a runner, you train mile after mile, hour after hour, striving for that ideal finishing time. But when that day comes when you're determined to meet that goal or even set a new PR, how can you be certain you're on pace? What if I told you Garmin had a tool that will help you better manage your splits and potentially make all of the above a reality? Well, today, I'm here with one of our other hosts, Matt, to talk about a Garmin training feature called PacePro. Matt, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me as an unofficial host, finally.
So Matt, I know you're an avid runner and you mentioned before that you really got into running once you started at Garmin. So can you tell us a little bit about that and what your story is with running?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much growing up, I was never a runner, really. Asthma, hay fever, a lot of things basically working against me. So when I got hired on at Garmin, coming up on like 14 years ago, I started working in the fitness product support. So I was like, okay, well, I need to get to know how these watches work and how to use them. So I think at the time I strapped on a Forerunner 305 and started running. So, obviously having not run that much before, I was, averaging, 20-minute miles, only doing one to 2 miles at a time. And now I'm, avid runner, as you mentioned. I think in the last like 14 years, I've accomplished and finished over 50 races, 20 of which have been half marathons, and I even did one full marathon, which, if anybody is considering full marathons, train for them, unlike I did, but it's still good to get out of that bucket list. So that was nice.
So that's super impressive. So obviously with that many races under your belt, you probably have a pretty good handle on your pacing.
No.
No?
Not at all. I am all over the board. So that's exactly why I liked using PacePro, just because it at least gives me a better idea in terms of just kind of managing my pace. Because with all of the races, for instance, I start off a lot harder. So you
get that adrenaline going. I'm the same way. Like just starting out, like out the gate,
and you're in that pack of people, and you want to get out of that crowd.
Yeah.
You start off hard, and then by the end of the race, you're just exhausted. So you just see your pace just dramatically decline, and I guess increase in time. So with PacePro, you basically have a better tool to help manage kind of, not be like, if you don't want to be like me and start off too strong, you have something on your wrist letting you know, okay, dial it back a little bit, so that way you can still finish stronger like you initially planned at the start line.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us how someone can get started using the PacePro feature?
Yeah, absolutely. There are 3 ways that you can build what's called a PacePro plan or PacePro strategy. The main 2 that's going to be a little bit more universal for everybody would be either on GarminConnect.com or the Garmin Connect mobile app. Select devices have the ability of doing it like directly on the watch, but it is a select few. So I want to focus mainly on Connect Mobile and Garmin.com for the sake of this video. So when you're in either platform, you go to your main menu, which is typically located on the left, go to Training and select PacePro Plan. From there, you select either a course from a particular route or area that you've run previously, or you select a race distance. And we have a whole bunch of preset race distances from 5K to full marathon, or you can customize it, I think, anywhere between like 1 to 150 miles, depending on what you're doing. And then from there, you need to establish either your goal pace or your goal time. So you can set, if you want to do a 10-minute pace, 9:50, whatever there, or a goal time of, if you wanted to run a 5K in say 30 minutes. And depending on which one you pick, the other one will then automatically adjust appropriately for it. After that, it's then just a matter of establishing other little intricacies to kind of cater it to your individual needs. So the primary one that you're going to run into is establishing a positive or a negative PacePro plan. And essentially what that means is, a positive plan means you will start out the first half of the run faster. So then when you hit that back half, you can kind of pull back, take it a little bit easier, reserve your energy. Or if you're still feeling really good, then push yourself. And then a negative plan is obviously the opposite, where you are taking it easier on the front half and then pushing yourself towards the end for kind of that strong finish.
So you mentioned when you're creating your PacePro strategy that you can choose from either a previous course that you ran or just select a set distance. So is there a benefit to using one of those options over the other? Or is that kind of a personal preference?
I mean, it's kind of a mix of both. When you're when you're creating a strategy based on distance, one nice benefit for it is you're essentially granted freedom to run wherever you want. You're not locked into one particular route or course. That's often how I run. I don't know which direction I'm going to go. It depends on how I feel that day, how warm it is. A lot of variables come into play. That's really the best option in terms of if you want to, kind of go freely throughout the day in terms of how you want to run. With a course, a great benefit for creating a strategy based on a course is that it takes into account now elevation data, because that's in that information when you're establishing that plan. So with that, while you're creating that plan, you can now use a slider bar to establish how you want to approach hills and inclines. So if I end up doing a course on one of my PacePro strategies, the way I'll set it up is I'll kind of pull back my pace on an incline so I can take it a little bit easier, reserve that energy, and then when it comes to downhills, it'll then speed it up. So I'll kind of use gravity to my benefit. So essentially, I mean, that's kind of like, my advice if you're wanting to figure out which way you want to go when creating your strategy is, if you don't know where you're going to run, then set it up on a distance and you can just kind of do whatever you want to. But then if you want to account for hills, if you're particularly training in a particular fashion, then using the course and get that elevation data. So after you start the timer on your watch, you're going to get a dedicated screen for the PacePro strategies. So from top to bottom, I'll kind of break down what you're going to see. So at the very top, you're going to get the goal pace for that particular split. And then right below that, you're going to get your actual real-time pace for that split. Next is a progress bar indicating how much distance you have left, again, for that split. But then the last field at the very bottom is what I find most crucial and at least beneficial for me when I'm out running, which is an indicator letting you know how far ahead or behind you are for your overall goal on that strategy. So for example, I'm 2 miles into my 4-mile run and it says I'm 30 seconds ahead. So now I know for those remaining 2 miles, I can maybe pull it back a little bit if it's like really warm, Kansas humidity and heat in the summer. So I can just take it easy. Or again, on the inverse, if I'm 30 seconds behind, I can now kind of decide how I'm feeling to kind of push myself to then meet that goal on those back 2 miles. So yeah, ultimately PacePro is just this great on the wrist at a glance tool that you can use, whether it's race day or on one of your daily runs to help manage your overall performance and hit your goals.
Yeah, this is a super cool feature. I've definitely fallen a little bit off my training with the pandemic, and so I think getting ready for my next race, I'm definitely going to utilize this. So thank you, Matt, for explaining this feature and for being here.
Yeah, thank you. You're very welcome.
It's obvious that if you have a PR that's been a little too elusive, then PacePro may be the training tool you want on your wrist. Thanks again for stopping by and taking the time to learn how to make each mile count with PacePro. For now, that's all I've got. I'm Natalie from Garmin, hoping that however you choose to train during your day, we've helped you beat yesterday.